Welcome to the 2021 Watershed Congress. This is Wednesday, day 3 of our virtual Watershed Congress week. And as I've said, we are very happy that you are joining us today. The Watershed Congress is organized by the Delaware Riverkeeper Network in collaboration with many other organizations. My name is Autumn, and I am the Development Associate for the Delaware Riverkeeper Network. And I am also your moderator for this session, Explore a New Kind of Teaching and Learning Resource for Aquatic Insect Identification with Macroinvertebrates.org. And we are pleased to present Tara Muenz and Marti Louw as our speakers for this session. Tara is a conservation ecologist and community educator whose work uses meaningful experiences to build deeper connections between people and the planet. And Marti is a faculty member of Carnegie Mellon University and design-based researcher focused on ways that design can be utilized as a creative problem-solving form of systemic inquiry. Welcome to both Tara and Marti, and I'm now going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Yeah, welcome everyone. We're so excited. We have presented on this beautiful website, Macroinvertebrates.org, a couple of years ago in person, but we've had some interesting new tools and data research to share and all kinds of neat things. So this is our agenda, and Marti and I are going to kind of bounce back and forth, and we're going to have a portion where we'll pause and have you go into some activities. But first, Marti's going to present on the history of this project, the website macroinvertebrates.org, research findings, and more. Then I'll share with you all the amazing tools that we have developed for you to help you to learn to see and see to learn. Then the last portion of our presentation, we're going to practice with one of the new tools that just came out this summer, our new free mobile app. So go ahead, Marti, take it away.
Great. Let me see if all right. Just a little bit of background. Macroinvertebrates.org is an NSF-funded project with the goal of creating an innovative kind of online teaching and learning collection that was designed to support freshwater insect identification for citizen science and environmental education. The site currently features 150 commonly found macroinvertebrates in the eastern United States. So unfortunately, we don't cover the west of the Mississippi. At family level, you'll find many of the same, but the general will be a little off. I want to call out too, this was an interdisciplinary project. It took lots of different people, minds, and expertise and effort, and including Stroud Water Research Institute, of course, which has been with us the whole time, developing both the scientific content and helping keep our boots to the ground and thinking about what trainers and volunteers and learners really need. We also partnered with Clemson University and their entomology department with Dr. John Morse. The Carnegie Museum of Natural History has been a longstanding partner with the Powder Mule Nature Reserve, and Rockman et al. Has been doing the evaluation research for the project. And I'm going to talk a little bit more in a few minutes about the important contributions that each of these different groups made to the project. Let's see. So project overview, it's good to have a goal and lots of goals, ambitious goals when you pull together an interdisciplinary set of people and you're trying to align the work. And we really organized what we were trying to do around these 3 high-level goals. One, making this process of teaching and learning to identify aquatic macroinvertebrates easier for non-experts and volunteers by increasing their confidence, engagement, and accuracy in taxonomic identification tasks. And so you'll see some of the ways in which we've tried to do this and some of our evaluation outcomes. Our second goal was to improve the quality of biomonitoring data that groups can contribute to citizen science or community science, or to just inform their environmental decision making. So that was a really important goal, is to make sure that the training and learning resources were available so more people could more easily skill up and learn how to do this ID work for these purposes. And lastly, as a learning design researcher, we wanted to really establish design principles and that sort of talked about how we can create these kind of tools to better support learning to do the scientific forms of observation, especially with skill users and learners from different backgrounds with different motivations. And so you'll see again some of the ways in which we've tried to address the needs of diverse audiences. Moving ahead, so Currently, learning to identify insects is hard. I think probably everyone here on this webinar has at some point tried to identify an insect or maybe become expert at it. But currently, many of the tools that are available are print and paper-based. And so there's flat keys and there's flashcards and there's guidebooks and so forth. And while they're all wonderful, it's often easy to get lost in a key, take a wrong turn or lose your way. Often what you see in your hand that you've pulled out of a river, a lake, or a stream looks nothing like the photograph or the illustration. So you're trying to do that mapping between what you see and what you're supposed to be seeing. The terminology is often unfamiliar or hard to picture, things like cirri or mandibles or hinged mouths. What are you supposed to be looking for? And confirming an idea is hard. When you think you have it, how do you know if you're right? How do you check with someone? Unless you're with an expert other, there's often no way to know whether you got it right or not. And so we felt there was a real opportunity to try and create some tools that would help doing this kind of learning to ID work. Just a little detour for a moment about the underlying technology that was driving our project. And most of you are probably familiar with online geospatial browsers in the form of Google Maps or Apple Maps or some of these tools where you can zoom in and go from kind of a satellite zoomed out view of the globe and then go progressively deeper and deeper into the image as it switches to sort of more graphic map representations. And as you get further down, you can even dive into building level kind of information, click on it and get all sorts of contextually relevant specific information. We thought that this kind of geospatial browsing had real opportunities for other kinds of information systems that were highly visual. And so we used the kind of underlying zoomable technology and the ability to specifically pinpoint content to locations to develop the Macroinvertebrates.org project that we're going to show here in a minute. So you'll see many of the same features on the website. There's a deep zoom, you can toggle and flip to different views, and you can pin specific locations with information. And here you'll see where that pin exists on the gill. You can look on the panel on the right and see the different order level characteristics. And on the tab sections at the top, you can flip between information like life histories and pollution tolerance values, and also have a gallery of images and links to things like iNaturalist or videos online related to these organisms. So we've tried to use that same kind of geospatial browsing, Google Earth kind of technology, but for a different purpose. Let's see, again, just zooming in brings you in close up, and here you can bring the richness of both imagery, illustrations, and all this information together in one sort of easy to access space. So I'm going to take a few minutes now and to go through the tremendous amount of labor and expertise that went into this work and call out the different contributors. So this site is foremost, it's based on images, right? And we worked very closely with the Carnegie Museum of Natural History, Powder Mill Nature Reserve, and the entomologists at Clemson University to gather the specimens and then use this sort of special high resolution gigapixel imaging kind of technology where we took a single insect and we would divide it up and take lots of small images and then go through a focal stack and then stitch and render these all together to get these really high resolution zoomable images. So that's how you're getting the level of detail and that kind of seamless kind of zoom through different layers. And so there was a tremendous amount of work that went into doing this and preparing the specimens and making sure that they set up properly for the photograph and didn't dry out. And we were using Purell gel before. We all know it for its current uses during the past couple year. But it would be the preparer at Powder Mill would set the insects in the gel, and that was a way to stabilize them and get them perfectly set for photography. Scientific content. We also had a tremendous amount of content, and we needed order level, family level, genus level information, pollution tolerance value at family and at genera, and then all of the kind of characters needed to be individually annotated and snapshot. And so Stroud and Clemson University were instrumental in doing that heavy lift. We also followed a co-design process, which is really important in these kind of designing these complex technologies that have to meet the needs of many different audiences from rural to urban, from younger to older, with different kinds of research questions. And so we partnered very closely with 5 different organizations that worked with us to through each stage of the development work to give us feedback and test out and work with us. And so I want to just call out these groups that were fantastic. Also want to mention the design team. There's been a small army of Carnegie Mellon students from our human-computer interaction, design, and information sciences programs that in various ways have contributed both to the website design as well as the training resources that Tara is going to present later. And so this has been both a wonderful training opportunity for students, but also we benefited from their savviness and experience with mobile applications and web applications. I also put in square quotes the tech team. The site was really built by one individual, Chris Bartley, wrote all of the code for both of the front end presenting website, the back end kind of content management system, as well as a specialized kind of what we call the interest point tool, where you have to go in and zoom and be able to label, annotate, rotate the pins and so forth. He created all of this as a custom kind of tools for us to develop the site. So it's really important to acknowledge his contributions. And at this point, this is just the website alone, 23, more than almost 30,000 lines of code. So I'm gonna take a minute here because we do have an hour. I have a short video rather than talking it through. I think this video really quickly gives you a snapshot of all of the features and functionalities of the website. So we're going to give this a try and see if it works. And I guess Tara and the rest of you let me know if it's not.
Macroinvertebrates.org is an innovative teaching and learning collection designed to support freshwater insect identification in citizen science and environmental education. The site currently features a digital collection of 150 commonly found macroinvertebrates in the eastern United States. To navigate the collection, select one of the orders from the home screen. This opens the order level page, where you will find all families in that order in our collection organized alphabetically. On the right, there's a panel with 3 tabs. The page opens to the Diagnostic Characters tab on default, which shows the key diagnostic features common to all organisms in this order. You can click the blue plus sign in the corner next to any feature to pull up a gallery of all images of that feature throughout the collection. Clicking on an individual thumbnail will take you directly to that specimen, or you can close this box using the X in the upper right corner to return to the order page. You can also find the expanded character list, which tells you all features common to this order. You can switch to see information about the order by selecting the Information tab, which has an overview and life history of the order. Key glossary terms are underlined in blue, and clicking on any of these terms will bring up the definition. The Media tab on the right provides photos, illustrations, and videos related to the specimens you are currently viewing, as well as related images from iNaturalist. You can clear away this panel by clicking the gray bar on the right to see the images by themselves. The buttons on the lower left allow you to flip specimens to see other available views. Many of our specimens have dorsal, lateral, and ventral views, but if a view is not available for a particular specimen, it will gray out. You can return to the default view by clicking the button again. From the order page, clicking on any individual specimen leads to the zoomable page of that specimen, while clicking any family name takes you to the family level page, where you will find the same functionalities to flip specimens or clear the interface. Now, when you select the Diagnostic Characters tab, you can see additional characteristics specific to family, designated by these different symbols. The Information tab also has more family-level information, including specific pollution tolerance values by region. In the Media tab, some families may also include expert audio interviews with Dr. John Morris.
Larvae of ephemeralidae are very common and widespread.
Clicking on an individual specimen will take you to the Specimen Zoomable page, where you can flip, zoom, and drag the photo with your mouse or touchpad, or with the plus and minus buttons in the lower left. You can explore the diagnostic characters on each specimen either by selecting a feature in the Diagnostic Characters tab, or by clicking on one of the markers on the image itself. To navigate back to a different order, family, or genus, you can click the little down arrow in the menu across the top of the page. If you're trying to identify a specimen but are not sure where to start, use the identification key on the home page in the upper right corner. Start at the top and work through each couplet. If you're not sure about the features described in a couplet, click on the blue plus sign in the corner to open a card with a brief description and related images from our collection. Once you have followed the key and found your order, access it by clicking directly on the image. You'll notice that some orders have associated suborders. For example, order Odonata includes damselflies and dragonflies. By default, all families in the order will be shown, but you can filter using the buttons up top. There are several other ways to navigate our site. When you open the menu and click Navigational Views, you will see 4 different methods. Insect Order View, which can direct you to an individual insect order, as represented by these illustrations. Full Collection View, which has all of the specimen in our collection laid out. Full Taxo List, where every specimen is listed alphabetically, with the ability to flip and zoom on the image without any annotations. And the Phyla Index, where you can search any specimen from phylum. You can use the search field to search the digital collection for any taxon, character, or term in our database. Results will appear from matching glossary terms, diagnostic features, and informational text. The glossary can also be found under Resources in the menu. Other resources we have available include training materials that are free for anyone to download. These include a printable identification key, order sheets for EPTs, the mayflies, stoneflies, and caddisflies, a Macroinvertebrates.org poster, and a volunteer-level training deck that can be adapted for your own use. Order illustrations and high-resolution images are also available for download. Our site also features a practice quiz, which allows you to try your hand at identifying random specimens from our collection. The practice quiz has the same features as the website to flip, zoom, and look at key diagnostic characters. The quiz also allows you to keep track of the number of macroinvertebrates you correctly and incorrectly identified. If you need help with the website, this video and a quick start guide are under Help, along with frequently asked questions. If you find any bugs on the site, of the technical or scientific kind, you can report these under the Report Site Issues link. To contact the project team, use the General Inquiry link. If you would like to find out more about how we built the site or read publications from our research, visit the project blog and About page. This is an ongoing National Science Foundation supported project, and all of the resources and material are made available under Creative Commons license. Thanks to all of our partners and collaborators for their work in creating this innovative online teaching and learning resource.
So a little bit just in addition to building the site, we've been conducting learning research as well to try and understand what expert ID practice looks like, and then think about how we model that and understand where and how learners get lost in this ID process. We also did project evaluation, and we worked with Rockman et al. To make sure that we were really making gains on these topics of confidence, accuracy, and engagement, which were really important for us. Some findings that I just want to highlight, some top level findings, is because I think this is important to the goals of both citizen science and water quality biomonitoring, that we really want to have assurance when we turn in data that the data is as accurate and high quality as possible. To do that, we need these tools and support so that trainers like Tara and probably many of you are using to help folks along. So we did find that novices in trainings, and of course the training people are going to improve, but it's the training with this tool, that people were significantly more accurate in IDing macroinvertebrates to order and family after training. And when we queried them, 87% of volunteers thought that the tool had helped them increase their accuracy, and another 83% felt that the online tool increased the quality of the data they could report. So those really nice, strong findings that the website and these tools were helping them improve their accuracy. Another finding that we found was that volunteers were significantly more confident in their ability to both identify unknown specimens to order and family, and notice the relevant features they needed in order to identify. So we did this both through surveys and observations and through focus groups. Lastly, and this was a recent kind of finding from a paper that we're putting together, is that we really look closely at the scientific use of language. And one of the interesting things that we found, that after training, volunteers were starting to use less terms, but more scientific terms when they were doing their ID work. So they were not just observing everything and calling it out, but really starting to focus on the particular diagnostic characteristics and the ones that were relevant to doing an ID. So that was another nice way in which the tools and the training were supporting more kind of precise use of language. So I'm going to turn the presentation over at this point to you, Tara, to go through some of the resources and the way that you've been using them in your work.
Sounds great. Thanks, Marty. Yeah, so the resources page you can find with the navigation panel up at the top. And I'll be highlighting just a few. The video did go over a lot of those, and we had a question about where that video was, and it's posted on our resources page indeed. So you can find that intro video Marty just played for you on that page. So next slide. And next. And there we go. So this is just a highlight of some of the major resources. I know the screen is a little bit small to see them, but I'm going to walk through some of just the major ones that I've found as a trainer, and also a macroinvertebrate, someone that's also trying to learn and keep up with the macroinvertebrates. So yes, next. There we go. One of which is our trainer guide. So some of you might be either a learner or you're training others to learn, whether it's at the citizen science level, which goes mostly to phylum or order mostly, or some families. But these are some tips just for you as a trainer, and also how to kind of learn the macroinvertebrates themselves. And it's just like any other kind of taxa group, whether it's flora or fauna. It's learning a lot of just the lexicon and just some of the tips for any of these groups. So Marty, it looks like something's like hovering over. There we go. Thank you. So tip number one would be to check out our resources page and just become familiar with it as a trainer, so that you can guide people into where sections might be most useful. You can share this video ahead of time of a training or after, speaking with an individual. Tip number two is just to bring in the website before and during, after a workshop. So all the time, and there are lots of ways to do that. There is actually a video on the resources page where I go through these tips in more depth. This trainer guide has more information on how to do a lot, dive into these tips as well. Tip number three is really to offer a visual and learning variety. We all learn different ways, which is pretty obvious, but we don't always offer this support in this kind of direction when we do any kind of training or learning. And we actually conducted a trainer survey of biological macroinvertebrate trainers across the US. And we found out that at most of their trainings, they offered little to no technology. And so that was a reason to just have more support and more tools, such as the app that we're going to go over today, to offer to a volunteer. Tip number four is, as a trainer, have some type of confirmation on the identifications, these IDs, as many practice opportunities to get that as possible. So whether it's in person or, as we showed you on our quiz, that quiz offers those ID confirmations. Tip number five is just to dive deeper into certain taxa levels. So try to focus on one order at a time. Get familiar with what all those trichopter or caddisflies look like, what makes a caddisfly, and then you can move into other orders or families. Tip number six is focusing in on lexicons. So we need to learn, what are wing pads, what are tarsal claws, what are elytra, all those things that you would try to learn, especially if you're identifying plants or salamanders, etc. Just get to know the lexicon. And tip number seven is start with morphology. Get to know the body parts of an aquatic macroinvertebrate first, because that's going to help you identify. And then some of them are some aspects of their morphology is so tiny. So we address that really well in our key and the zoomable features of the site. Next slide. Thank you. And so that zoomable key is really awesome. We can also print it. That's on our resources page. But as we showed you, one of the bottlenecks that we'd always have when people were learning is they didn't know what the body part was, where it was. And it's really hard to show sometimes unless you have a scope and it's projected or you can actually point to it. So now we can have this gallery of images of what wings and wing pads are, all the major body parts and features. So you can click on those and that helps you get in that right direction and remove that bottleneck. Next. These full order sheets are focused on the EPT, what I call the 3 most wanted, 3 most sensitive orders to focus on, and most diverse too, except we don't have the diptera. We should probably make one for them too. But we have the mayflies, stoneflies, and the caddisflies. Some are 1 page, some are 2 pages. They have the major features of the body parts. We also have pictures of adults, and then we broke up the caddisflies into the ones that make cases, the ones that are free living, and more, and ones that spin nets. So these are great to print out. We laminate them and have them. And we have specialized just order focused workshops, but we also have ones where it's just really nice for someone to see all of them in one gallery, one place. Yeah, so keep going forward, Marty. Yeah. And next. And then lastly, I think one of the last ones that we're going to share is a huge poster that's beautiful to print and laminate and have stream side at your workshops as well. So this is great where we have all the insects and non-insects presented. And next. And again, all these are downloadable. The ID practice game is really incredible because it diversifies every time you do it. You don't have the same chronology and sequence of macroinvertebrates. And again, this is to what a citizen science level commonly would be here in the US. So this really could be applicable for anywhere in North America and actually across the world, so that you can just get to know them down to order level. And it points out features, especially if you get it wrong, if you get it right. And then you can, we've had professors at universities use this as a part of a quiz for the limnology or entomology courses where they can take these quizzes and send a screenshot of how many that you got right or incorrect. Next. And then lastly, I would like to point out this volunteer PowerPoint or slide deck that we've created. You can use it to learn yourself, or you can use it actually to do presentations on aquatic macroinvertebrates. So it gives some basic life history. It gives you also some slides about the major sensitivity groups, which ones are commonly confused in an ID, and then it goes into each of the taxa very deeply about how to identify them, what are the key features, what sensitivity group they're in, and again, how where they might get mixed up with other taxa groups. So you're welcome to use that anytime. Next. So he's going to take it from here, and I haven't covered our newest resource tool, which is our Pocket Macros app. Thanks, Marty.
Thanks, Tara. So one of the things that we discovered, we built this great website, but we hadn't completely solved the problem. And we knew from the beginning, from some of our early workshops and so forth, that folks wanted to be able to use the collection stream side, probably in settings without internet connectivity or low interconnectivity. And some people didn't have PCs, and the website's really not optimized for viewing on these smaller screens. So we wanted to really make sure that we could meet these people in all these different contexts that we knew existed. And this is probably not even comprehensive. This was also reinforced when we started looking at our Google Analytics, and we noticed that 23% of people are coming to visit macroinvertebrates.org on a mobile device, and that was a subpar experience. And of course, with the pandemic and so many people having to move home and use online resources, it was really imperative that this website was optimized for that kind of use. We also had a lot of feedback that people found the amount of content kind of overwhelming, and could we make it more simple and make it easier for novices or learners to really kind of onboard more in a more straightforward way. So for the last year now, we've been working on a mobile application to try and address some of these issues, and called Pocket Macros. And so I'm just gonna give a brief tour through Pocket Macro, and then we're going to give you the links to be able to download and take a few minutes to look through this app on your own.
So we'll post both the Android and the Apple versions, but you can also just look for Pocket Macros. And Pocket Macros for Android is 2 words, I've noticed, and then all one word together for the App Store. Someone just told me that a couple of days ago. So we'll post in the comments here. Let me get that. Let me check this out. So I'm posting Android version. So we'd love for you to add that now. It's free. Hopefully you have space on your phone. I know that's always an issue, but there's the Android version, and here is the Apple version. On your way. So we'll give you just a few minutes, maybe till like 5:08-ish, and we'll check in to see how everybody's doing with putting it on their phones or smart devices. And then we're going to go through a few activities with you using that. And we just love also to get your opinions about how it looks to you, how it's operating. There are other macroinvertebrate apps out there, but I have to say, as a trainer, this is my favorite. I was so excited to work with it and have it as a tool for my trainings. And Marty, while they're doing that, there's one question in the chat, Q&A, that I couldn't answer. So if you want to answer it live, it says, will this project continue to be funded so that you can update and add more species to the database? We get this question often, so I thought I'd let that go for Marty.
So the program that this was funded through is the National Science Foundation Advancing Informal Science Learning. And the NSF is not around sustaining projects. It's about doing, this is really a research and development project to understand how do we build these tools. So the scaling and growth of it, we're going to have to either come up with new kind of innovations and research questions to justify NSF funding on it, or we're going to have to look for other kind of funding sources. We have been talking to some folks in Canada in the Quebec region, and they have some entomologists who have some high resolution photography, and they're interested in adding photographs. I mean, this is certainly something we would both like to expand the collection and also make it relevant to groups that are working on the other side of North America as well too. So I think obviously we're going to continue to want to maintain and grow this collection. It's always our savviness and ability to get additional funding to continue this work. It is a research project. We're not a for-profit or yeah. So I don't know
Yeah,
if that that's for me.
And I like to add, like, a lot of citizen science projects, different data quality levels that they are concerned with, and they're starting to open the gates more to getting to a deeper level of taxonomic ID. Again, most projects, I was the statewide coordinator for the Department of Environmental Protection, Georgia Adopt a Stream. And our data, our citizen science, community science data was going towards the state to help them identify impaired waterways, to monitor on their 305B, D lists for the subsequent year. And other states are doing this as well. And they're considering, going to a deeper taxonomic level, such as family. Maryland, Stream Waders is doing this, where they're actually having their volunteers collect the data. But, that's where this site really has its power, is going to family level and order level. And to add all those species for even this part of the country would be a huge project, a huge project too, but definitely of interest. Let's see, a couple more questions that were in the chat that I did answer. The video that Marty shared earlier is on our website's resources page. So I think we addressed that earlier, so you can play that again and watch it again. And then we had another question about the use of community science instead of citizen science. And we are definitely on that pulse and part of the Citizen Science Association, and have been parts of those conversations for many, many years now. So we're still using currently citizen science, but I also address community science and use volunteer a lot in my wording, but there hasn't been like one definitive answer actually internally for us here at Stroud that we're using. We're kind of using all of them right now, but sensitive to the ideas that are questioned about using the word citizen. So thanks for bringing that up. Okay, so we answered that, and I think what we can do now is proceed to the next slide, Marty, and we'll go through some of our smaller experiences, or did you want to walk through the app a little bit more now that everyone's got it? Just go through a few slides to show them some features.
I'm guessing, do we have time? Otherwise, we just move straight
Maybe
forward.
like 5, yeah, we have 5 minutes because our activities are very short. So go ahead, that'd be great.
All right, so this is just to help if folks are still kind of getting used to the app, just to help you build kind of a mental model of what's there and what's available. But the app is basically organized into 3 modes, and I will also just say this is a beta release. We're still in progress in developing features, and there's still bugs, and I'll at the end ask for bug reports and invite some of, if you're interested, to continue to do some user testing with us. But the app is divided into 3 modes: the field guide, the ID key, and the flashcard. And so you'll see those along the bottom, and you can move between the different kind of sections of the app. When you go to the home page, you'll see up at the top right where you can toggle between the insects and the non-insects to access the field guide. The order page presents overview as well as pollution tolerance values. And when you go down to family, we give more precise kind of PTVs. And if you click up to the top, you can move out from mayflies to other orders and drop that list from the action sheet from the bottom and toggle around. So that's a way to navigate, between orders quickly. The features tab also is, if you see that orange kind of line there, that allows you to toggle between the overview, the actual close-up view of the features that you would have recognized in the website. And then, sorry, my eyesight is clear here, not so good. I can hardly read that. Oh, and then the families. Yes, so you can go from orders down to family, and then get to the zoomable image where you can zoom in at hand. So that should be and yeah, so I just covered that. And the zoomable page at the bottom, you can toggle back and forth and use that little icon on the bottom to click back when you want to leave that kind of view. One note, we're trying to keep the download size of the app manageable, but we have been able to double the resolution so that you'll get much crisper and cleaner images, and it'll still be accepted by the app's development stores and reasonable to download on kind of a home connection. So the next piece, and this is actually, we're finding even in the early analytics and on the website, people use the key a lot, and it's something we need to really pay attention to, and we're trying to figure out how to help people. It's all good and well to see these images, but if you don't know what you're looking at, how can you guide people through? And so we've developed sort of a yes and no kind of dichotomous key, and we're working on a new kind of zoomable feature, almost like if you remember those old Prezi presentations where you're going to be able to click through and see where you went. So that's in the second mode. And the last thing, and we heard this over and over again, that both before and after training, people wanted a way to practice to get better and skill up on their IDs. And so we've created a practice quiz where you can toggle on all 150 and randomly kind of test yourself, where you can work on individual orders. The students, I have 2 students this fall too, that are working on common lookalikes, and as well as order level quizzes that we'll be adding to this practice or flashcard feature of the app. We love to gather feedback from people. The more we hear about what's working and not working, the more improvements we can make. So, using chat here and now, or if you're interested in being a beta tester, I've left the 2 links in here that give you access to the beta testing environment, where you can give us feedback directly on some of the new apps and features as well too. So I'll put those in chat here in a minute. But just up and coming, we are going to be releasing version 1.12, which is going to have higher resolution gigapans. We're going to have a search so that you can search on family and order in both scientific and common language, and it'll autofill. We are going to allow for kind of multiple illustrations and add a glossary. And what else are we doing? And lots of UI fixes and polishes. So we'll keep looking. We will for the next year. We can continue to improve this, and we look forward to any feedback you give us. So should we start an activity, Tara?
Yeah, so we just have a few questions and, give you some time to do this, but we just, if you have the app, go ahead and just try to find your favorite macroinvertebrate image, and you can share what it is in the chat, just to make this a little bit more active. So that's one thing. It's nice just to be able to kind of surf around on the app and check it out a little bit and see what you can find there. You may have already been doing this, so but take up just a few minutes here or moments playing with the different caddisflies. Nice, Dottie. I love them. I love caddisflies. I love them all, but it's so much fun to look at them. And if you're like finding anything as you're surfing through this that you suggest to us, even in the chat, feel free to like make suggestions or glitches that you might think come up, or features that you absolutely adore and love. We'd love to hear about all of that.
Our lead entomologist is a caddisfly expert, so I suspect we may have a preponderance or a heavy weight of caddisflies in the collection.
Yeah. And it's almost kind of endless here. It's like there's so much depth to this app, which I've not seen again from other apps. It's really, really incredible. And again, so useful because when you're out in the field, can't really access the website as well as you can on your phone. So this is just so perfect and super helpful. So find that favorite. Oh, great, Cherry. Hugger mites. Yay. Call them fish bait or gator fleas down south. So hopefully nobody's had their finger taken off by them, but they are some of the coolest. Great. Well, let's go to like the next activity, but keep popping in any replies about this activity one. But yeah, let's pop to the next slide and see what we've got here, Marty. We only have 3 activities, so that we can end on time here. So this is a little bit more in depth where you can use those flashcards that Marty was saying to practice some ID skills, bookmark, maybe some that you just don't know yet. So maybe take a moment here to go through the flashcards section. We're going to have you as our next activity ID a certain critter that we'll put up on the screen. So don't try the ID stuff just yet, but go to the flashcards and just start into those and set up your flashcard deck. And again, you can do some bookmarking and you can choose your orders to study, all of that, and just flip those around and check them out and get used to that. But I would start with the tab that says orders at the top, because you probably don't have any bookmarked just yet. So go to the orders and start flipping through those 150 that are available. And you can start bookmarking ones that you feel like you might want to study a little bit more.
I have a question while people are sort of playing around. Is there any potential for this project to tie into, say, the IUCN, I hope I got those letters in the correct order, red list, just because I know that's one of the things that I always find interesting when I'm working on identification, is being able to see where it stands in terms of sort of vulnerable or common and so on and so forth.
Conservation status. I know that's a great point. Marty, do you know about that or have ideas about that? We do put pollution tolerance levels there and some sensitivities, but not the conservation status. And not many aquatic macroinvertebrates are, all listed that greatly, but there are some that are on that list, I believe.
I think that it's an interesting idea. It wasn't, no one brought it to my awareness that a lot of these are kind of endangered, but if there were and I suspect are they at the genus or at the family level, if they're endangered, and it might be some of the freshwater mollusks that would be an interesting, certainly. Yeah. And we could also, if there's a database, this is data driven, we could probably add a layer into that under the information.
Good idea. Yeah, terrestrial insects are listed a lot, but I don't know about looking right now to see like what aquatic insects might be listed.
Two other things just that are coming down the pike that we've developed that might be of interest to folks that will be uploaded to the resources pages are we have some really beautiful illustrations done of the orders, and we've made 3D printable files of them. And so if you have like a small MakerBot or a 3D printer in your classroom or so forth, you can download these. And we've seen teachers using them to create rubbings, right? So you can put a pencil or put a piece of paper with a crayon over and kind of rub out and see the insects emerging. So we're putting some resources like that up. And we've also been really working very closely with Stroud to develop a flashcard deck. So of like 52 cards that you can use as ways to get to know the insects and learn about a lot of the different kind of freshwater ecology kinds of topics.
Yeah, it's interesting on the IUCN list when they like try to search for habitats. They have wetlands, but they don't really have, and they have caves and subterranean habitats. Don't really see like Lodex systems on here, so that's interesting. Maybe I'm missing it, but that would be a good way to be able to search. I'll have to look and see.
Do you want to try the third macro or the third?
Yeah, let's do this. So yeah, so go ahead and do the next slide. Try to identify this critter. You may already know it, but try to, the next slide should have a picture. Yeah. So try to identify this critter from this image. I know it's kind of challenging just to see one image and do this, but give it a whirl with that section of the ID part of your flashcards and see if you can do that. So go to the middle that says ID help. And then once you think you have your answer, go ahead and put it in the chat.
I have no idea if anyone's even out there. We could be talking to ourselves.
No, we've got some folks still here. Yeah. Few are hanging on. Yeah, Patricia, sure. She said, just saw that you have a coming soon for lookalikes, which is a great idea and good learning tool. Thanks for that.
If you would put, we're collecting, everyone seems to have their favorite lookalikes from their region, which get mistaken a lot. We have a couple lists going, but if you have ideas of lookalikes that you'd like paired up, please type them in or let us know so we get a nice list. That's not something you can actually just download somewhere. We have to build it. So ideas on what should be in the common mistakes or like commonly mistaken lookalikes.
Yeah, that's great.
Can you guys type into, are you going to type into chat, or how are people going to, for the answer for the ID when they get it?
Yeah, they can. No one has yet. Maybe they're not finished identifying, but yes, looks like Cherry did. Thank you. And yes, it is a mayfly. Awesome. Yeah, no big mouthpiece there. So on the head, we've got some antenna, we've got the eyes, but on the thorax, that middle section, we have wing pads, which you can kind of see that are pretty big, that kind of extend over the abdomen. We have 6 legs. Got mayfly, but didn't believe it. Oh, shoot, Dottie. You did great. And then in the abdomen, we have 2 tails, tail filaments, and then we have the wing pads on the abdomen, which makes it a little bit different, right, than a stonefly, which gets commonly confused. And then you could try to go to, the family level for this too. That's good. The ID help worked great.
One thing, this is, and this came through user testing, is that second key choice about the mouthpiece is really difficult for people. And so Stroud has figured out a different way to organize the key so you don't bump into that one first. So we are actually redesigning the key so you don't get those hard to see options right off the bat.
Yeah, that's great. So I put in the chat, I think we have a small little survey if you would like to give us your thoughts and opinions about it. And we really appreciate your time and being here, and please share this website and all the resources and tools. And feel free to reach out to Marti or myself anytime with questions or suggestions or great feedback or any feedback that you might have. And Marti, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to share.
No, just thank people for their attention, and we hope this is a useful set of tools from you. And we love stories. We like to put them on our blog post, come up with innovative uses, or you have requests. We still have about a year left on this grant, so we're looking to do the best we can to improve it. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
So thank you both. As we kind of wrap up here, the app looks fantastic and I can't wait to see how it continues to develop. Thank you once again, everyone, our speakers and participants. Have a really lovely evening.